Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Ambassador Paula Dobriansky and our esteemed panel.
Good afternoon, everyone. And we do indeed have a very esteemed panel. And I'm very excited about this panel. And we're going to be discussing the future of democracy in Latin America. Let me introduce them briefly. I think they're known to everyone here. But first, here to my right is His Excellency Alberto Uribe, former president of Colombia. And then next to him is the Secretary General of the OAS, Luis Almagro. And then next to him at the end here is His Excellency Luis Alberto Lacalle, former president of Uruguay.
Thank you.
So welcome, gentlemen. Just very excited. We really want to hear your views about the state of democracy in Latin America today, how you see it, and what are some of the kinds of things that we can and should be doing. So, Mr. Secretary General, if you don't mind, I want to begin with you, because you're at the helm of the OAS, and the OAS does deal with human rights, democracy. So how do you see it? And tell us what your thoughts are right now. How do you see it, and what are you doing to advance democracy? And welcome.
Very good. Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be with President Uribe, President Lacalle. Very honored to be with both of you. About the state of democracy and the future of democracy in Latin America, has always been a challenge, and it will be a challenge in the next years. We are facing new issues, problems, difficulties, and we need to definitely address them in the most proper way. That means we have a challenge that is the inequality, that is the biggest poison that democracy has in the region. Second, and we are the most unequal region in the world. Second, we are facing the challenge of organized crime that is definitely affecting electoral processes, is affecting financing of campaigns, is affecting the way that people can participate in politics. Third, we have an issue that we need to address finally. We need better participation in politics, and we need stronger institutions that can deliver better results for our societies. Our institutions need to face the challenges of the 21st century. We have never been able to do the last jump to development in Latin America. We have been stuck there for quite a while, sometimes in the border, sometimes going backwards. And so far we don't have these institutions that can assure that our society can have the better conditions of equality, that our productive system can be more efficient, that we can resolve the matters of democracy and making them more efficient through these new capacities that democracy needs to have. And it comes from stronger institutions that definitely is a matter that needs to be addressed. All those that they have eroded the institutions, suddenly they start facing problems of lack of production, a lot of social problems, and definitely lack of territorial control of it, and a lot of problems that come with weak institutions. So I think those are the challenges that we have, and the situation of democracy is it's not a situation of democracy in Latin America. Every country has a different stage. Every country has a different scenario. And it depends on these matters, how they have controlled these matters, how they have controlled the strength of institutions, how they have been able to implement access to rights, how their security system is working, and of course, the level of development is pretty much marked by that.
I'm going to come back to you to talk a bit further about institutions, and in particular, what kind of programs the Organization of American States has. Let me go to President Uribe. Mr. President, I understand that you've put together a kind of a list. You've been thinking about this issue for some time. Share a bit about what's on your list, and then we're also going to dig deeper into it.
Thank you, Ambassador. It's a great honor to be here in Concordia with you, Secretary Almagro, President Lacalle. I have written a list of 5 headlines of problems in Latin America and against our democracies. The first one, the illicit economy. Many people say that Venezuela is recovering the economy, but people are dormant because they do not realize that it is because of the illicit economy. In my country, our great democracy has to confront criminal groups in some parts of the country because of the support of illicit drugs. And these criminal groups are affecting the rule of law, remittances. Do you know what is the amount of remittances Latin American countries received last year? 131 billion American dollars. Cuba, a lot. Many people go from here to Cuba for vacation, and they are very happy. What is my criticism to remittances? Because it is without political corresponsibility, without interest in recovered democracy. Third, the rule of law. When I look at the constitutional draft in Chile, I have this concern. In the middle of many, they want to replace the rule of law by local governments made up of social groups with one common element, social class hatred. President Quiroga is not here because, and we miss his presence because of the politicization of the justice administration in Bolivia. Secretary Almagro talk about poverty inequality, but I want to put the other side of the coin. In many of our countries, governments do not allow the private sector to prosper. This is the only way to overcome poverty and to create much more equal societies.
You said, I may have missed, what's the fourth and the fifth? Because you said illicit economy, you mentioned remittances, rule of law. What are the others? Because you said you had 5.
Poverty.
Poverty, okay, and
the difficulty for the private sector to
that's
prosper.
okay. I just want to make sure it's identified.
The
right.
replacement of the Republican institution,
Okay.
such as we can read in the draft of the Chilean Constitution, because they want to replace many of the Republican institutions by local governments.
We're going to come back to a number of these and give you the opportunity to dive deeper. Particularly this issue of remittances has been a very serious one, even with the issue, I think many know, certainly here in Miami, is the issue of the Cuban doctors and also that connection there, which is also a piece. President Lacalle, let's hear your perspective on this. What do you see?
I think we must widen the view because we have, as a policy of the United States, making a point on rule of law, separation of power, freedom of press, and sometimes we forget that prosperity is the basis of all that. And you have, on one side, China doesn't mind about human rights, but it's a very good market for our products. We are selling 40% of our produce to China. And when the delegates of government people from the States come down and say, you need human rights, Uruguay, check. Separation of power, Uruguay, check. Where's commerce? Where's trade? So we need to widen the concept of democracy towards having prosperity, which is the basis of democracy. And we need to speak about the terms of trade, because that's the possibility of developing a better society. And on the other side, we tend not to pay attention to the fact that in America, there are forces, negative forces, organized forces, dedicated to destroy democracy. The Foro de San Pablo, the Acuerdo de Puebla, are not inventions, they are realities which are working against democracy. And they've done that in Chile, where at the beginning of normal demonstrations, but 100 people inside the demonstration began to break glasses and to ransack shops. And then it was, oh, qué horrible, the things that are happening in Chile. These organizations are dedicated to put a wedge into every small crack in the society. The native peoples, they are reclaiming their ancestral rights. The gender policies, the class struggle, Foro de San Pablo and Acuerdo de Puebla. So we must look at the whole of the positions regarding democracy. The institutions, bien sure, but then also trade as the basis of society.
Right.
We need to have an opening of American markets to our produce, and on the other side, remember that there are forces working very effectively sometimes against democracy. So it's a whole picture, not only the institutions.
All right. Mr. Secretary, let me come back to you. Could you share what the OAS is doing to deal with this issue? You mentioned the challenges as you see it. What is the OAS doing specifically?
Well, we work a lot with institutionality of the Americas. First of all, we have worked in the fight against corruption. We have worked in digitalization and government transparency. We have worked in better development of the human resources of the institutions. We are permanently in action. We have a school of government related to building better capacities of the different institutions and different governments. So we have a lot of work going ahead. Our main challenge always is the stability of democracy all around, and we work a lot about that. We work a lot in supporting electoral processes and electoral authorities. We work a lot in making the judiciary more independent and more able to deal with the needs of justice in our countries. We work a lot with the parliaments of the region. We had an event yesterday in the dialogue related to that. So action is everywhere about bringing better institutions to action in the hemisphere. The challenges are there. We have to face them, and we need better institutions in order to face these challenges, as I said. The challenge of development, of course, is a big one, as I said in the first question. And we are always almost there, and we should be able to engage in one of the next industrial revolution. We have lost the first one, we have lost the second one, we have lost the third one, we have lost the fourth one, and we are ready to lose the fifth one. And so we need to be better prepared in order to deal with that. We talk a lot, many times about lost decades. I think we have 200 years of lost decades in the hemisphere related to our development. We have not been able to move forward. And these pillars of the organization we need to make them more available to the societies of the hemisphere. And if you see the way that democracy works is the best antidote against poverty and inequality. You see, when you see the rate of democracies, the ranking of democracies in the region, the best democracies are the most developed and better security and better institutions and better access to rights. So democracy is the way forward. And when democracy stops working, you see the problem of production of these countries in the hemisphere, no? The problem of production, the social inequalities. You see the challenges that they have to produce whatever and how they may have made their social system completely collapse, and from where are coming the humanitarian crisis, and from where are coming the migration crisis in the hemisphere. And it's very easy to see that they come from dictatorships. So democracy is the best antidote for everything in this continent.
Thank you. President Uribe, let me come back to you and give you a chance. You mentioned 5 issues that you see on the list relevant to democracy and what's impacting democracy. If I had to ask you, what is the one that's the most serious, in your opinion, and why?
With your permission, I want
Please.
to greet President Duque of my
Yes,
country.
yes.
who does a
Didn't
good
see
work.
him. And forgive me, I did not see you walk in. I saw the others, but not you. So glad you did.
Ambassador, I am unable to say what is the most important danger in the list I brought for this afternoon. But you have shown interest in remittances.
Yes.
Last year, Latin America received $131 billion. Remittances are good. The problem is the lack of political corresponsibility. For instance, Cuba, in the year 2019, received more than $3 billion. Last year, more than $1 billion. And there is a lot of money without books. The new generation of Cubans, people that have been born here in the state, that were born here in the state, they work here, earn money here, and go to Cuba for vacations. And they enjoy Cuba a lot, but they never think in the necessity for Cuba to recover democracy, institutions, to install a productive infrastructure. The case of Venezuela. In the last opportunity, I spoke about the illicit economy. Now going to remittances. 25% of the Venezuelan families receive foreign remittances. In between more or less 6% of the GDP is because of remittances. But people are forgetting the necessity to recover democracy. Just to speak on my country, the greatest democracy led by President Duque. Last year we received almost around 8 billion. And we have in some regions the prevalence of the illicit economy. We need to create a political responsibility to destroy the illicit economy.
Thank you. President Lacalle, we have only about a minute, a little over a minute, but I know you'll be very pithy in your remark. You mentioned the importance of prosperity. And in fact, all of you have,
The beginning
in a
of
certain
the
way.
solution is to have
But what's
one...
the private sector? I want to hear, how do you see the private sector's role in this?
No, I very much like the private sector. I think it's the real motor of economy. But about policy, we need one Undersecretary of Latin American Affairs that can spend 2 days in each country to realize that the trade is very important, not only civil rights or human rights, and that there is a negative force working. And the Chinese are there, so try to compete with them, because if not, they will be promoting their possibility of trade without any attachments.
But you know what the issue is? The Chinese, when you sit down with them, they say that democracy, the problem with democracy is it doesn't deliver for its people. But the problem with the Chinese model is you have no
I'm not for
political
the Chinese
rights.
model anyway, but I need the United States to be more pragmatic, to realize that we need separation of powers, rule of law, and everything, but at the same time prosperity. For instance, they are looking for oil in Venezuela and changing all their policy. But you have Guyana next door, full of oil. We can go there and not to Venezuela. So we don't understand the policy of the United States.
I don't know if we should conclude on that note. But I guess I'm going to conclude on this note. I think all of you have underscored how crucial it is to have political rights, because political rights matter, but at the same time, the economy does matter. And you began by mentioning the issue of inequality, those who don't have, and how that needs to be rectified.
I don't want to belittle the effort of the OAS. They're doing a great job, but that's part of the vision.
And the remedy, to fight every day within the family,
We will
with
end.
the job mates to defend democracy.
We will end on that very positive note that we will fight on this issue. Thank you so much.
Bueno,